Good morning, everyone. We have a full house here, and it's awesome to see everybody here. Welcome. It's really amazing and wonderful to be in this space with you. And I'm just giving a moment to the folks in our other locations to tune in and be with us. So welcome to the 2025, almost 2026 Small Farm Summit. And we are delighted to be hosting this. It's been several years since we've done this. And we're hoping this is the first of a whole new set of summits. My name is Rangarajan, and I have the pleasure of being the director of the program. And I've met many of you today. So it's lovely to look out here and see old friends and some new friends that I hope to get to know better. I also want to express my thanks to the Atkinson Center for Sustainability for allowing us to use this beautiful space. And again, this is a new building, and it's really nice because of the way that we want to host this is a bunch of conversations that we're going to be having with each other at our tables, but then as a whole room, and I'm hoping that you're able to hear each other well. I think this is going to be a great place for that. For everybody else, welcome. And I also want to acknowledge that Cornell University is located on the traditional homelands of the Goykono Nation. The Goykono are members of the Haudenosaunee Confederacy, an alliance of 6 sovereign nations with a historic and contemporary presence on this land. The Confederacy precedes the establishment of Cornell University, New York State, and the United States. And we acknowledge the painful history of Goykono dispossession and honor the ongoing connections of these people to the land, past and present, to these lands and waters. So I want to first highlight and share that the summit is happening simultaneously in 8 different locations across the state. And so for the next hour, we're going to be all connected together. And in total, we have about 300 to 350 people across the state that are gathered to talk about small farms, to celebrate and share ideas that are going to help us sustain small farms into the future. Thank you. So what I would love to take is a minute to have our hosts from the various sites tell us briefly who's in the room, so we have a sense of that. And here in Ithaca, I'm just going to share that with my team here and a bunch of other facilitators, we have about 60 who are joining us. That includes 10 Cornell faculty, a mix of extension educators and other service providers, and then farmers ranging from aspiring to beginning to seasoned old timers like me. So next, I would love to hear from the folks in Albany County. Do we have Steve and Garrett?
Yes.
Can you hear us?
We do.
Great. Hi, Steve. Hi, Garrett.
Good morning,
Welcome.
everybody. Ooh, I'm just going to come over here so we can do
Yes,
this.
that's great.
Good morning. So yeah, we're joined here in Voorheesville, New York, in Albany County. Steve and myself are here facilitating today's summit, and we're joined with 15 or so farmers and service providers. So really looking forward to some good discussions and a successful day and how we can move forward to support small farms around the state.
Great. Thank you, Steve and Garrett. How about Cole and Casey from Essex County?
Hello, good morning. Can you hear us?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. So we're up here in Essex County in the Adirondacks in Westport, New York, and we have 20, soon to be 30 farmers and service providers gathered together, braving the very, very cold temperatures outside. So we're still shedding our layers and warming up with coffee.
Welcome. Thank you. How about from Washington County, Brian Gilchrist and Crystal Stewart Cortens?
Morning. Good morning. So we're in Washington.
Go ahead.
Washington County with about 18 people, a mix of service providers and farmers, some wearing multiple hats. anywhere from new and beginning to seasoned farmers.
Welcome. Thank you all. We also have several locations around the state with a particular focus on an enterprise or an audience. And so what I'd like to do is move through those. And I'm going to start with Yolanda Gonzalez and Connor Youngermer, who are actually in New York City with a focus on mushrooms.
That's right. And I promise it's not just the two of us and 5 empty chairs. Our full room camera is broken, but
Yeah, just trust.
we have a
big
full room. And we're happy to be here. We've got a great mix of folks from academia and industry and extension, and most importantly, lots and lots of farmers, new and established. So hi from New York.
Yeah, hello from New York City.
New York City, thank you. And they're focused on mushrooms there, and there was about 100 people that were expected to be gathering. Mushrooms, there's a lot of passion around mushrooms these days. Mildred Alvarado and our team are in Hudson Valley with our Spanish-speaking farmers. Good morning. Can you hear us? Tim and Mildred, I see you.
Good morning. We are in Hudson Valley and we have around 80 people. We have farmers with different their development, and also we have educators, extensionists, partners, and we are very happy to have here this community sharing with all of us.
Great, thank you. Nina Saley is at Clear Path in Madison County hosting our Veterans in Agriculture gathering. Nina.
Can you hear me on?
Yep, we can. We can hear you quite well many times over. Nina, are you able to hear me?
Is this better?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thank you. We're here in Madison County at Clear Path for Veterans, and we have a full room. Everybody wave. A group of service providers, aspiring farmers, beginning farmers, experienced farmers. We're probably half and half. Many of our service providers are also farmers. And so we are really looking forward to some good networking and some good conversations at the table.
Great. Thanks, Nina. And finally, we have Lynn Bliven and Eric Frenay in Allegheny County with a focus on trees on farms.
Hi, everyone. Morning. Morning. See Lynn in the back of the room. We have about a little over 20 people gathered here in Allegheny County on this very, very cold morning with about the same mix as the other sites, a nice mix of service providers, aspiring farmers, and experienced farmers.
Great.
Glad to be here.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So yeah, as you can see, we have folks all over the state that are really committed to this mission. So we're excited. In 2026, the Cornell Small Farms Program will celebrate our 25th year of supporting diverse small farms in New York, in the nation and beyond. I have to admit that we have people internationally that come to us for information, and that's always a little startling when somebody from Croatia asks you a question. Recently, we revisited our mission and vision and goals to help us continue to deepen our services and our connections to all of you for the next 25 years. And we're dedicated to uplifting small-scale farming as a dignified, viable livelihood by providing intentional, innovative, and inclusive services. We envision a future where small farms are valued, respected, and supported for the vital role they play in sustaining and supporting stronger and more resilient food system. So our work as a program will continue to be centered around 3 big goals. Building small farm resilience, growing new farmers, and cultivating networks of support. So these mission and goals have naturally led for us to the theme for today, which is Stronger Together. And so I just wanted to explore that theme with you for a moment. Well, I feel like we're all in a very interesting time where uncertainty seems to be a rule of the day. Many of us feel the pressure to work harder and faster as we're trying to manage this uncertainty, and the many different demands that are on our time, our energy, and our spirit. And while we're driven by our personal values and our commitment to the work of farming and tending, we can find ourselves feeling alone and disconnected. This feeling is sometimes made worse by our little blue light devices and AI, that voice that seems to be showing up all the time, as well as the unpredictable stresses of climate, markets, labor, and our own personal health, and the impact on that on our well-being. So now more than ever, I feel like we need to plan differently to grow the networks of support that can help us be more resilient to the challenges that we face. When I think of resilience, I personally think of it as the ability to bounce back better. And of course, experience and knowledge and resources are critical, and we'll have a chance today to consider those issues and what kinds of education and investment could help small farms build resilience. But equally important, though, is a faith in ourselves and a sense of hope or optimism that we can and will get through challenges. Our relationships with each other can help reflect and reinforce our many skills and gifts. That's why we structured the summit as local gatherings. Because while we may talk about statewide needs and initiatives, these are really shaped by local experience, local culture, and local needs. So we also feel that as we gather, we have a chance to reweave the social fabric that connects us and strengthen our connections with each other and find inspiration in unexpected places. So your hosts have worked hard today to just create a space for this type of weaving. We're deeply grateful for the collaboration of many of you, and especially our colleagues in Cornell Cooperative Extension. And we are so grateful for your leadership and your commitment to small farms and helping us host this day and this event. So we're going to invite you to pause today, maybe turn off or silence your phones for a while, connect with your neighbors, and learn and imagine how we could together be stronger. What can we do to be stronger together? You will be inspired by stories from other farmers, and we'll invite you to tell yours. We'll share a meal and listen to each other. And we'll brainstorm ideas of how we can grow the resilience of small farms and the enterprises we're passionate about. I know you folks in New York are passionate about mushrooms. What are the ways we lean in and support further that resilience and the long-term viability of any of these enterprises that we're passionate about? I'm going to invite our faculty that are around the state and in this room to really help us explore the compelling questions that, if answered, could help us build greater resilience in the small farm community. So with that, I would love to introduce our Dean of the College of Agriculture and Life Sciences, Dr. Ben Houlton, to offer a welcome to you. Dean Houlton is a professor in the departments of Ecology and Evolutionary Biology, as well as Global Development. And he's an accomplished international scientist whose research interests include global ecosystem processes, climate change solutions, and ag sustainability. So Dean Houlton.
Can you hear me okay on this? Okay. Well, welcome to Cornell. It's a pleasure to see all you out here today. Bienvenidos a la Cornell. Mucho gusto. This is a really exciting event, and I'm, first want to just give a round of applause to Anu for all of her leadership. If you join me in that, thank you. I just want to pick up on a few of the comments, a little bit off the script. Obviously, this is a time of deep uncertainty. It's a time of great consequence, and gathering together in resilience, which bouncing back better. I love that phrasing. It's also an opportunity for us to build and strengthen community, which to me means a commitment to growing together. And whether you're growing food, you're working in mushrooms, you're thinking how to continue to advance your business that you may have had for generations, or you're just starting out, Cornell is here for you. We're deeply committed to our communities, and that commitment didn't just happen over the last couple of years. As many of you know, this is a commitment that is truly in our DNA. And I'm so proud to be dean of a college that is maintaining this commitment to strengthen the relationships and to grow our impact, leveraging the best available science, and working with you to co-create that future so that you're in a better position. And that's really our fundamental aim. Now, Cornell does have this history, and it was 1904, more than 120 years ago, so it's incredible that we have a 25-year anniversary upcoming, when the state legislature launched the New York State College of Agriculture, which today we call CALS. And it's grown in scope, and it's grown in impact, and we're worldwide, but it all is anchored in our commitment to New York. You know, whether it's the city, it's great to see Yolanda again, or it's in Ithaca, or it's in the southern tier, you know, Buffalo region, wherever you are. We just want to make sure that we're doing our best to help support you with your needs. Now, when the college was founded, it's interesting, about 40% of the US population was engaged in farming. So that's a big state change that's happened over the past 120 years, to the point now that it's estimated that less than 1.5% of the US population is engaged in farming. Although, if you were to examine the full sector, you would say about 10% of the US economy approximately is engaged in some element of food, so it's a considerable amount. But that has been a really dramatic change. And so it's important that we continue to think about our communities, our health, our well-being, our culture, and to grow that future in an even more complex and vital time. You know, I am deeply hopeful about the future. I think that good things happen from hope. But we also need to be very much aware of the challenges, not deny the existence of the issues that we're facing. You know, whether they're global issues like climate change or local issues, there are many, many issues that we have to continue to confront together. So agriculture is now vibrant in New York State, and our farmers are producing an array of various commodities, whether they're fruits or vegetables, dairy, livestock, that feeds millions of people. Now, the USDA defines small farms as one grossing less than 350,000 per year. And by that measure, about 90% of the farms here in New York are considered small. So we are a state that's built on small farms. That's a harder and harder thing to maintain. As we know, there's been a lot of consolidation in the industry over the years, and there's been a lot of policy that have promoted that consolidation. But in New York State, we're built different. And that's why these programs are so critical. So we take our land grant mission quite seriously. And that includes improving the lives and livelihoods of all New Yorkers through teaching, research, and extension. And it's great to see so many faculty here who are getting outside the lab, which is where the magic really happens. And that's the secret ingredient behind the College of Ag and Life Sciences. So it's in the classroom, but it's also deeply committed through and evident through our extension, Cornell Cooperative Extension, as well as our extension faculty who work daily with our communities. And our faculty and staff continue to use sort of cutting edge research, but be very pragmatic about the challenges, so that while we want to be peering into the future and looking around corners for this community, we have to make sure that we are deeply committed to what you need today. And that's the combination that Cornell University continues to try to optimize with you. So looking ahead, as I mentioned, agriculture has changed radically, and it will continue to change radically. Now we're going through a lot of new disruptive innovation, you know, robots, drones, sensors, AI. AI might be overhyped, it might be underhyped. It really depends on what area you're looking at. But I can tell you that we are committed, no matter what kind of practice you're engaging in, whether it's organic or regenerative, or you want to get into high tech, we're here for you to support your needs. And that's a commitment we maintain through our roadmap to 2050, which is the college strategic plan. So I just want to close by saying that we are very proud to continue to be home to the Cornell Small Farms Program. I come from a long line of small dairy farmers in the Midwest. We have one small farm that remains with My great aunt and uncle started in Kansas. And so that's something that is a lived experience for me, and I'm really committed to maintaining that experience here for you. But that future will be shaped by all of us. It'll be shaped by all of us. It's all of us coming together, sometimes agreeing and sometimes disagreeing, but finding that magic space where we can build community and maintain our resilience. And so small farms are going to continue to be a critical part of the farming community here in New York. And I guess I'll just close by again saying thank you to all of you. Muchas gracias. It's a pleasure to have you as a member of our community. This is really a family in the end, and we have to work together, and sometimes families don't agree, but we're always landing in the right spot, and we're going to continue to maintain our commitment to you so that you can not only survive, but thrive in the years ahead. And we truly are stronger together. Thank you.
Thank you, Dean Houlton. And so I'm really excited and delighted to be introducing our keynote for today. Our New York State Commissioner of Agriculture and Markets, Richard Ball. So I just want to share that Richard Ball was one of the first farmers that I met, if not the first farmer I met when I came to New York back in 1996 as a very green vegetable extension specialist. And at that time he'd only been farming for 3 years. So we, in some ways, grew up together in this industry, but also what always was amazing to me about Commissioner Ball was that he was a thoughtful and committed collaborator, but always open to trying new things. And then in 2014, he was appointed to take on a huge new thing, being the Commissioner of Agriculture. I have a deep respect and fondness for Commissioner Ball, grounded in his kindness, his deep humility, his listening, and his ability to really listen and hear and connect with anyone working in food and farming systems. It's always been a joy to visit with him because he carries a unique perspective that's born of the farming way of life. So one of the things, I know that many of you might have questions that you'd like to ask after hearing his comments, or just curiosities. On your tables, there should be some 3x5 cards or Post-it notes. And at all of the locations, what we'd like to do is invite you to write down your questions and share them with your site hosts. So what they're going to do is collect these and then forward them to myself and Violet. And so we will, as time allows, be asking your questions, and I'll be posing those to the commissioner. What we'll do is also collect your questions, and we'll provide them to the commissioner and his team so that they may respond afterwards, and we'll share those answers with you after the summit. So again, Post-it cards are there on your tables. We invite you to listen and consider, and then offer questions for the commissioner. So, Commissioner Richard Ball.
Thank you for the kind words. I think you may have overshot the mark just a little bit, Anu, but Dean, great to be here again. Great to see you. Appreciate your partnership. And Anu, thank you. And the Small Farms Group, it's been such a relevant group. I'm so impressed with this agenda today and pulling together people all across the state. It's pretty amazing. Para Mildred and Tim, muchas gracias. Muy buenos días para todos. Quiero comenzar dando un saludo muy especial a nuestra diversa comunidad agrícola aquí en el estado de Nueva York. So thank you for being a part of this. This is such an interesting agenda and day for me, and I think for all of you too. So thanks for having me here. I'm pretty happy to be here. I'm pretty happy to, as you start this day of learning, I know the conversations that I think are going to happen here and all over there are going to be pretty critical to the way we go forward in the next few years. I want to thank the Cornell Small Farms team for spearheading this, because this is, you pull this off, it's going to be pretty cool. We're happy at the department to support, obviously, the Small Farms Program, and we do that whenever we can. And this is a good thing. So basically what you have here, as Anu kind of alluded to, is a slightly overdressed farmer. I farm in the Schoharie Valley, which is about 2.5 hours from here probably, driving responsibly, that is. I guess for me personally, I was one of those lucky kids who kind of knew what he wanted to be when he grew up. My grandparents were dairy farmers. Mom was the 5th generation on that farm. I was 7 years old. I got to milk cows with my grandfather. And you can imagine when you're 7 years old, milking cows, things are pretty good on a farm, riding a hay wagon, sitting on a horseback. But I think it was then and there that I established my own love for agriculture and knew what I wanted to be. Unfortunately, when I was about 10 or 11 years old, my grandparents retired. They sold the farm out of the family. And so I went to college. I did not go to college. I went to high school. And I graduated high school, and I knew that I wanted to be involved in agriculture. So after I graduated from high school, I basically started knocking on doors on farms. I was looking for an opportunity to get a job. I looked on dairy farms and different kinds of farms. And I went to one farm, knocked on the door, and they said, come on in. And I said, I'm looking for a job. And they said, can you be here tomorrow morning at 7 o'clock? And I said, yeah. I came in the next morning at 7 o'clock and hopped in a pickup truck, went out in the field, and found myself face to face with 72 guys that spoke Spanish. I was the only one that spoke English. But it was such a great experience. I was 18. Most of them were 18 to 25 years old. And they taught me the details of the job. We learned to work together. We learned to communicate with each other. That was such an incredibly important part of my education in agriculture, because I learned how to work with others. I eventually became a crew leader because I could speak both languages. And I wound up being a manager of a farm. And that was such an unfortunate thing for me, because the farm I went to work for began as a dairy farm, transitioned to growing potatoes for Frito-Lay potato chips, decided to try to grow sweet corn to sell to the local grocery stores, built a greenhouse so they could grow their own transplants, built a farm market. They were changing constantly looking for a way to stay alive in agriculture. It was a great family and a great experience, and it's there that I learned how to embrace change, not be afraid of change, but actually look for change. I was there for 20 years as the manager of that farm, and part of that growth was so special. And it was at that time when my wife and I looked at each other. We kind of learned how to farm, felt pretty confident about what was needed, what we could do, what our capacities were. We had some optimism, and along the way, I had picked up the ability to confuse a banker, which is very critical to success in agriculture. A friend of mine once said, there's a lot of money in agriculture. The key is to get it away from the bankers. So we purchased our farm, Schoharie Valley Farms, in 1993. I think I knew that might have been the first farm you visited when you came to New York State. So today we farm 200 acres. It's a diversified farm in Schoharie. We have a pretty diverse vegetable operation, greenhouse operation. We have a retail farm market. We have wholesale customers, retail customers. We have about 60 people that work on the farm with us. And as I mentioned, we have 3 generations currently working on the farm, which is pretty fun. Although I'm a first-generation farmer in Schoharie, I'm happy to say that those 3 generations and the 60 people that work with us at the height of the season are a pretty important, special part of that for me. As I worked with the family to build the farm, I began to get active in Farm Bureau, the farming community, advocating for our farmers and looking for opportunities and policies that would benefit New York's ag community. I had the opportunity to be a part of, or have the opportunity, I should say, to be in positions where agriculture and state and national level, came to bear. including the New York State Vegetable Grower Association, the New York Farm Bureau, American Farm Bureau, even our own town Chamber of Commerce got involved there. And through those interactions, I learned how the policies happen, how they happen, what happens. People that are in the room make those decisions, and being in the room helped. And I also learned a little bit about how government worked. So 2 decades after buying the farm, I was in the packing house. It was the fall of 2013. And I remember the phone rang and my son came out and he said, "Dad, the governor's office is on the phone." So I went to the phone, I took the call, and they said the governor's looking for a commissioner of agriculture, wondering if you would agree to have your name put on a short list to be considered. And I said, no, thanks. My goal was to be a farmer. My goal was to have my own farm one day, and that's where I am. But thanks for thinking of me. Well, they called back. And then in between, I had the opportunity to talk to my wife, who was absolutely no help. It was one of those, I'll support you, whatever you want to do, kind of conversations. So I was compelled to go in and just check the temperature in the room at the Capitol. So I went to Albany and sat down with some of the governor's team, and they asked a lot of questions. I asked a lot of questions. And I'm really here as a result of those conversations because a couple of things were going on with me personally. One, I saw an opportunity to try to connect dots between an amazing agricultural community here in New York State and an amazing, most diverse marketplace anywhere in the world. I saw an opportunity to connect young people in our schools with New York grown food and make sure that we were educating our kids in New York about agriculture and where that food comes from. I saw an opportunity to connect our government with our farmers, to try to be a voice for the agricultural community, maybe in Albany. I saw an opportunity for the next generation on my farm to get a chance to skin their own knees and feel the energy that I felt when we were able to finally own our own farm. I wanted them to feel that too. So today when I'm home on the farm, this morning was no exception. I let the dogs out, I open the door, I step outside, I look across the farm, and I think, how many people get the chance to farm? 1%. 1% of us are producing food, producing agricultural crops in the country and in New York. But now I get to look across the farm and say, how many people get the chance to go to Albany, talk to the legislature, talk to the governor, get around the state and talk about the importance of New York agriculture to people. So that's pretty special for me. We've got really great resources in New York State. We've got good land. We've got access to water. We're not on fire. We have really great farmers. We have a very diverse population. We've got the best land-grant system for ag education in the country right here. We've got a home, and we get to work, we get to live, and we get to farm next to the largest, most diverse, most amazing marketplace anywhere in the world, frankly. And of course, we've got great resources with Cornell Small Farms Program, which is spreading support and developing resources to help us figure that out. Pretty important. Farm ops for veterans, Futuro and Ag for Spanish first speakers, urban ag, agroforestry, and so many more things. So pretty proud to have this relationship between the department and Small Farms Program and strong programming that we have in the state to help these things happen, help foster these programs so that people of all sizes, backgrounds. Agriculture is for everyone, and it's for all cultures. Certainly, and Dean alluded to it a little bit, the farming community is facing a lot of challenges today. And I would say that perhaps the greatest challenge facing ag today stems from the level of uncertainty. Supply chain disruptions, ongoing tariff changes, immigration actions, the federal shutdown, longest in history. They're all adding to this uncertainty, which is creating such a ripple effect throughout the food system every day. And things are changing every day. Every day you turn on the news. Actually, my mother says, every day I turn on the news, they say good morning. They proceed to tell me why it's not. it can be trying. It's creating real anxiety and uncertainty on our farms today all across the state. And I get to go to Washington pretty often. I get to go on trade missions pretty recently. I was in the UK, I was in the Dominican Republic. I get to meet with the other commissioners from the other states across the country quite often. We talk a couple times a week frequently. And I have to say that when I'm in Washington, when I'm in that national scene, there's still a pretty dense fog. It's still foggy down there is a kind way to say it, maybe. I get on the plane and I'm coming back to New York and I can see the air clearing because I know in New York what we're thinking at the state level. I know what our agricultural people are thinking. I know what our farmers are thinking. I know what the programming that we have at the Department of Agriculture consists of. I know we have decades of good programs on helping farmers do a better job, be better stewards, grow their farms, connect to markets. And I think we have tremendous partnerships with all of you, and that's very important. So I think that this needs to be the decade of collaboration. It's now more important than ever that we all work collaboratively. I've always said things just work better when we work together, but this is in fact evidence that we are stronger when we work together. So the governor is all bought in on this. She asks me about agriculture every time we talk. Every time she speaks to the public, she mentions farmers, mentions agriculture. And because of this, I have tremendous optimism in the face of uncertainty. We're not changing our plans. We're not changing our programming. We're not changing the way we think about farmers in New York State. So we're working pretty hard to ensure that we can give you the best support that we can, especially in the next few years, so that agriculture can thrive in the state of New York. I think back to the pandemic. We all remember the pandemic, and there was some lessons that were learned there about our food system, how it was disrupted and what we needed to do to replummet. That's been a tremendous success as we go forward. That lesson needs to be reminded and kept in the front of our head constantly as we go forward, because I think one lesson, and I think it's a silver lining, frankly, is that New Yorkers, farmers, recognize that we better have a food system that works here in this state, that's responsive, that's resilient. In the face of any kind of event like that, that we are able to feed ourselves. Let's not depend on another country, another part of the world for food if we ever find ourselves in a situation like that. So I think we need to beat that drum together, louder and louder, and remind people how important it is to have this food shed right here in New York State. To that end, we've awarded quite a lot of grant funding through our Beginner Farmer Program, socially and economically disadvantaged program, helping us reach farms who may have historically had challenges in that area, getting capital, getting access to land, et cetera. We've got programs and opportunities in the areas of climate, urban farms, community gardens. Look at the number of people in the New York City office today that are part of this conversation. And we're working harder than ever to make sure that agricultural community has access to information, to these programs, how they work, the initiatives, and the context to understand how they can bring us together and how they help design New York State to enable us in the future. So there's a number of avenues that the department makes available to farming community to learn and ask questions. We got monthly newsletters to keep you informed, raise awareness of the opportunities with the department. There's also the Diversity in Agriculture webpage, designed with industry input to make it easier to find information and support. Damali Winter's in the back of the room, wave Damali, and she's with Hannah Gonzalez, both of us on our team, and she's an assistant commissioner focused on external relations, and she helps us bridge the gap between government and our agricultural community. She has office hours on a regular basis. I encourage you to take a look at the webpage and look how to share your concerns, help understand and navigate government, which is can be challenging. Great to have Hannah be a part of that effort as well. I was asked a little bit earlier in the hallway about next year's budget. We're going to continue to advocate for these programs, these type of programs in our budget. I feel pretty confident today, even in spite of the challenges and proposed shortfalls that we all see across the country. I think our budget in agriculture is going to be okay. So the department is listening. We're here. We're ready to learn from you and what's important to you. I look forward to hearing about the connections and the conversations today as we go throughout the day. Juntos somos más fuerte. We are more, better, stronger together. So with that, let me just say thank you and thank you for setting me up for a bunch of questions, Anu. It's always great. But thank you so much, everyone.
So for folks here in Ithaca, if you do have any questions, our team will rove around. Just put your hands up and we'll collect them. Again, we're just trying to manage sort of making sure that everybody has a chance. And so again, if you have, write it on a card and give it to Ceci. And then in our various locations elsewhere, as you are also gathering questions, please do send them along. Our team is sending them via the internet, so we'll be filtering those. But I want to give everyone a chance to do that. And I have a couple of questions that I'll sort of ask you just to get us started. And some of these are about farming. Actually, they're mostly about farming.
I'm more comfortable with that.
What do you know now that you wish you had known when you started your farm?
You know, we believed, we were confident that we could pull it off, that we could sell everything that we owned and purchase this farm. And as I mentioned, confusing a banker and taking on an incredible amount of debt. But we knew we could do it. I wish I had known that we could do it. We believed we could do it. But it was pretty hard. There was 3 or 4 years where we ate a lot of Cheerios. But at the end of the day, if you can pull together a system on a farm that will allow you to make a living and allow people who work with you to make a living, there isn't a better feeling in the world. So I wish I had known that we were actually going to make it because there was a lot of anxiety in those first few years. I guess that's how I'd answer that.
Yeah, great. And I'll go ahead and pose one other one. What personal skills have helped you be resilient to the farming challenges you have faced over the years?
You know, there's a lot of things there. It's not just one thing. There's a lot of things. I think, first of all, do the little things right every day. Forming a habit of doing little things correct every day. You know, I think success in any business, especially farming, is about good habits. It's not about hitting a home run. It's about getting on base consistently. So I think forming a habit of doing the right things, the little things right every day is one. I think remaining a student of your profession, always seeking to get better and growing. And I think people use the word sustainability a lot. I'm old school a little bit. People say things like sustainability to me, and I reach in my pocket, dig my fingernails into my leg a little bit, because there isn't a day that a farmer does not think about how to leave the farm better than he found it, how to leave the next generation in a better place than he found it. So I think that's part of the job being a farmer, is making sure that you can take care of the resources, have them there next year when you need them, and that the next generation will have that same opportunity. And I think I would add that building relationships. Sometimes we think we're in the farming business or the research business, or the science or the technology business. We are in the relationship business. That's how the world moves, through relationships. And I think the personal skills, talking with suppliers, talking with bankers, talking with customers. Customers drive where we need to go. It's not the other. We don't farm because we like to grow this or that or the other thing. We farm because a customer wants this product. And we need to understand that. So what the conversations are like, what those relationships are like, what that understanding is like is critical. I'd say those are probably the personal skills that I think the highest of.
Thank you. So now we're getting some questions from other sites. And so we do have the site that's down in Allegheny County with a commitment and interest to agroforestry and putting more trees on farms. And so from that location, there's a question. The state of Pennsylvania is currently actively encouraging the planting of trees in pastures to reduce animal stress on livestock farms, dairy farms in particular, via funding and technical support. Would New York ever consider doing the same thing or starting a program like that?
We have one.
We have.
Silvopasturing is something that Farm Bureau advocates for, that we here advocated for. It was part of the conversation around the climate conversations. I got to chair the Ag and Forestry panel for that Climate Action Council. And I think the opportunities for agriculture with regards to improving our climate in New York are amazing. We can actually achieve a net zero emissions. We can make energy on our farms. We can conserve carbon, sequester it. And I think the greatest examples of all of it are in the forestry world, where we have those opportunities abound. That's huge. So we're pursuing that, and that'll be part of our climate agenda going forward. So absolutely.
Great. One of our veterans has a question, and it's, as we look at the current healthcare crisis, much of it is due to preventable diseases. Where do you see a connection between the agriculture system and the healthcare system?
It's huge. It's huge. Before I became Commissioner of Ag, I was a local farmer. And my kids went to Schoharie Central School, 2 miles from the farm. And I got asked to be a part of an organization that was looking at, and some of you may be familiar with it, was called Fit by 5. But it was the state health department, county health departments, and schools looking at childhood obesity in young people by the age of 5. And of course, as a farmer, I was like, that's a thing, that's an issue. They needed a token farmer. They asked me, and I said yes. So I went to it. And I remember sitting there listening and learning about the problem. It's a thing. And I walked around the corner in the school to the cafeteria, and I looked at the menu in the cafeteria. I live in the Schoharie Valley, 18 feet of topsoil, one of the top 10 soils in the world. Famous for vegetables, famous for dairy, famous for so many grain crops. There was nothing on the menu there that came from my valley. There was nothing on the menu that came from New York. And I said, this is crazy, because not just because I wasn't going to be selling any product to that school, but what bothered me is that young people were going to go to that school and think they needed to leave our county to find a job. They wouldn't know that there were opportunities in the food system 2 miles down the road, 10 miles down the road, 15 miles down the road, that there were opportunities for them. And more importantly, we've talked about food security. We should have been talking then about nutrition security. And so that made a big hit on me, and I kind of carried that drum forward. So food is medicine, the opportunities to connect the dots. And when we put together the New York Ronald Certified program, which is our branding program for New York products, it was the Commissioner of Health and I who wrote up the language for that, because I knew we would see better economic outcomes when schools and local communities took advantage of local food. That was going to translate into good economic results for our rural communities. He was looking at it from the standpoint of, if children and young people are learning to eat properly and have good nutrition early on, those lessons will stay with them, and they will have better health outcomes 10 years, 15 years, 20 years down the road. I think that's still the case. We totally believe in that, and that's why we expanded those programs so much. So great point. Sorry, it puts me on the soapbox a little bit. But.
Great. There's a question here from Ithaca, and it sort of is curious about mental health awareness, and particularly how and what are the ways that small farms are being supported around this?
Well, that's a great point. And certainly we remember 2015, 2016, when we saw suicides happening on our farms because of the price of milk and cost of production. It's an incredibly stressful occupation that we engage in here. I've talked with the commissioner at mental health, and You know, everyone goes through high school, grade school. We learn a little bit about first aid. We need to learn about mental first aid. We need to identify those challenges, recognize them, and see them in our kids, in our parents, in our neighbors. We actually at that time trained our inspectors at Ag and Markets on how to look for challenges when they visited farms, when they went to inspect, to look for issues and concerns. Farmers are an independent lot. They don't seek advice. They don't go to therapy. They go out in the field and work it out and they figure it out. And unfortunately, the stress, can you imagine being a fifth generation farmer facing losing the farm that your ancestors had put together because of a tariff issue or price of milk issue or a market problem? It's enormous. So mental health is something we need to recognize, and the Commissioner of Mental Health and I agree that we need to redouble down on those efforts, especially in our rural communities where they may not have access to the help they might need, where access in an urban area might be across town on the next block, but in a rural community, you're kind of isolated, and it's pretty hard to find that. So I think we really need to look at that in a big way. We need to make sure as we see success in agriculture that it translates into success in our rural communities.
I appreciate that, because some of the work that we think about a lot in the program as well is this idea of reweaving social fabric and rebuilding connections, because it would be wonderful to know that you are connected to people who can show up before you get to crisis. And so that's part of our sort of our goal and sort of hopes as people are gathering in these locations, to make new connections.
Yeah.
People that have friends, that are neighbors, but then also people they can call upon.
Yeah.
To reflect and answer questions.
And that's really been compounded recently with ice raids on farms and the concern about just going out in daylight to work on a farm.
Yep. There's another question that we have from Albany County, and that's, what are the department's priorities in 2026 for supporting beginning small farms? Are there any new programs or actions being planned?
You know, because of my background, one of the first things we did at the department 11, 12 years ago was beginner farmer work group. And I ran through a litany of things that we're working on: community gardens, urban farms. There's 600 urban farms in New York City. Think about that for a second. Now, they're not going to feed New York City off a rooftop or a corner lot, but they are going to connect the dot. They are going to establish something, plant a seed in someone's mind about food and nutrition. Those are programs that we're going to continue to work on. This beginner farmer work group and community gardens work groups, and those work groups have been, we started 12 years ago, but they're really farm to school. They got codified by the legislature. Now they're in statute, and that's great. So those are things that we pay very close attention to. I think you'll see continued funding. In spite of the budget concerns, you're going to see those programs consider. We're going to keep working on that because two things. One, it's healthy for everybody. It's the right thing to do. But thirdly, we need that next generation of workers on our farms. We need that next generation of farmers on our farms. Average age of a farmer, 57 and a half in New York? 20% of them do not have a next generation on their farm. So how do we talk to people about opportunities in agriculture to farm, but more broadly, opportunities in the food system? Mm-hmm. I mentioned earlier, only 1% of us actually in production agriculture. But when you look at research, when you look at genetics, when you look at blockchain technology, food safety, logistics, you're talking about almost 40% of the jobs in the country. So how do we connect those? So it's imperative that we continue that work in all those areas, plant those seeds.
Great. Is there, from the North Country, we have a question. And are there, could you describe any movement or any possible incentives or tax advantages to help very small farms? $350,000 a year as a base, as a maximum, is a lot. And many of the farms that we're, especially as they're starting up, aren't making that. So what types of incentives or support might are on your mind and as you think forward?
Sure. Well, there's probably a dozen things. I would invite them to take a look at our website and look at them, but the Beginner Farmer Work Group, the market connections that we work on with Grown and Certified, for example. The brand New York Grown and Certified will tell a consumer three things. One, it's local. And every state has a local program. Hooray for us, we're local. That's great. But our program in New York adds an element of environmental stewardship that has been audited by us, our AIM program. How do you manage water and nutrients? And we have a food safety audited program, GAP certification, FSMA certification. So that's an opportunity for a farm of any size, and any farm size can be a part of this program. To use that emblem, put it on their packaging, advertise it to consumers, because we are marketing to consumers to say, New York Grown and Certified, look for that. It tells you that it's a local farm. It tells you that it's an entrepreneur in New York State feeding people in our economy. It tells you that they have food safety embedded in their programs and environmental stewardship. And for those three reasons, you can feel good about purchasing that product. I was just in New York City Tuesday and Wednesday this week at the second largest produce show in the country, where we featured Grown and Certified to buyers from around the world. Hugely successful. We sponsor that. You can be a part of that. You don't have to be huge. You don't have to be small. It works for anyone selling into a market where a mom and dad, a buyer at a grocery store, a wholesaler, a distributor can feel good about, this is a Grown and Certified product. I can reliably use this product in my school, in my business, and with my customers. So that's the principal one, but what we do for ag non-point on farms, what we do for soil and water conservation districts to teach those skills that farmers need, to manage their nutrients better, especially as we advance through this climate issues that we're dealing with and going to reconcile here in this state. Urban community gardens. Mm-hmm. We've got programs in each one of those areas. Let's get involved in those. Look at that website, call us up.
Yep.
We'll connect the dots.
And are there any, should small farms be aware of any specific tax advantages or incentives?
Well, we've got the overtime tax credit right now that's been widely adapted by our farmers when it comes to paying their workers and having workers. We have this challenge of decreasing hours to overtime in the state. That's presenting some challenges to farmers. Farmers are managing it pretty well, but there's a tax credit for doing that. Yeah. We offer incentives. Farmers hate to pay taxes. They absolutely hate to pay tax. They will borrow money to avoid paying taxes. And we have a 20% refundable tax credit in New York. It was in place last year. It'll be in place for the next 4 years. It's an incredible incentive for a farm to double down on their farm. Instead of paying the tax dollars, paying the income tax to the state and to the federal government, take that money, invest it in your farm and your buildings and making that farm better, and take that write that right off the bottom line of your tax bill. It's been hugely successful, and farmers look for those opportunities. Again, because they hate paying taxes. They want to invest in their farms. They want to see it get more sustainable, be better, have better operations, more efficiency. Those are two really quick and huge ones that had a big effect over the last 2 years.
Mm-hmm. Thinking about, from the Hudson Valley, we have a question about the relationship of our state to our agricultural workforce, which is Hispanic primarily. And how is the department trying to facilitate or support or modify laws to help our Latino population continue to be working in agriculture in New York State?
Well, it got a lot more complicated recently. For me, it's been a personal issue, just because of my upbringing and working with my friends who were from offshore and spoke Spanish. And boy, I'd save my money every year, and in the winter I'd take a week or two and run down to Agua Buenas, Puerto Rico, and visit my friends and stay with them. So I understood what they were doing, why they were doing what they do. And the issue led me to chair New York Farm Bureau's Labor Committee and wound up getting me appointed to American Farm Bureau's Labor Committee and chairing that. And the effort to have a guest worker program in the United States of America has been so elusive and so hard for so long because it's so easy to demagogue the issue, I think. We came close, I think, 3 times over the last 30 years to getting it across the border. But we have to have a workable guest worker program in the United States of America. We do not have enough people to work on our farms and do the jobs. And these are not just minimum wage jobs. These are career kind of jobs. These are good paying jobs. I'm concerned about where we're headed right now. Rounding them up and sending them home is not the right message. That doesn't solve anyone's problems and puts them at great risk. But we have come to rely on a workforce who is looking for work, who's looking to improve their own livelihoods and their family livelihoods. And we have to reconcile that. We need a way for a worker to come here, work, go home, take care of their families, improve their situations in their home countries. And we have 5 bills in Congress right now that offer pathways forward. Excited to be looking at them all and supporting them. But we've got to stop the path we're on.
Great. Well, I think we are at time and for our opening. I want to again thank you, Commissioner Ball, for being with us, sharing more about your farm and speaking to us both from the head of commissioner and a farmer who started just like most of us.
Well, thank you so much. I want to just close with one thing, if I could.
Yeah.
I was early on in my career in farming, and I went to, I think it was the Ag Society meeting in New York State, actually. And there was a speaker there, and I just kind of want to underline this idea of change. He was Don Rogers from Farm Credit East. Farm Credit is the biggest loaner to agriculture in the Northeast. It's where most farmers go. And I remember he stood up in front of all of us, and there was several hundred of us in the room, and he said, how many of you want to make a success of your farm and get it to a point where you could pass it on to the next generation and retire off the farm? Who doesn't want that? We all want that. He said, okay, then you tell me what 6 things you're going to do differently next year. And I sat back a little bit. I was like, what is this? He reiterated the well-known saying, it's in agriculture and probably most businesses, that the true definition of insanity, do the same thing over and over again and hope that next year it's better. That's insane. Tell me what you're going to do differently next year on your farm. I took that to heart. And so now my banker comes in every January. We sit down and we talk about what kind of year we had on the farm. He sighs. He goes, okay, what are the 6 things? Because he knows I'm going to give him 6 things. They're probably going to want to borrow some money to do them, and he's ready. So maybe it's a new crop. Like for us, it was sweet potatoes. Let's try growing sweet potatoes in New York State. Maybe it's a new piece of equipment, a different harvester that's going to make our lives better. Maybe it's a new management structure for the farm, like in a limited liability corporation, so we can begin to transfer ownership of the farm to the next generation. Maybe it's a new thing in the store, a new person, a new hire. What 6 things are we going to do differently? And I would challenge New York agriculture to think about that. What are we going to do different next year? We know what happened this year. How do we make it better next year? And it starts with us embracing change, not being afraid of change, but actually looking for the opportunity to connect better with our customers to find out what they really want. The challenge I have on my farm is now my kids think they each get 6 things. No. Dad decides what the 6 things are. You can give me input, but we're going to do 6 things, not 18 things differently. So anyway, I just want to drive home the point that we need to think differently about who our customer is. Are we meeting their needs? And are we able to grow with them and for them? So thank you very much.
Great. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.
All right, everybody, and thank you again. I had just a couple of things I wanted in order to close our time together. So what I wanted to do was just take a moment to summarize what happens after day. We're going to be disconnecting, and we all have activities that are happening in our local sites. And what we're going to do is take notes from today and try to summarize these and thinking about how do we build more resilient farms and enterprises. And you're going to have the opportunity to provide feedback to us starting today. Like we have an evaluation sheet, and we're going to be asking you to sort of tell us like what's really resonating for you from the conversations that you've had today. As we share these, what we do with these summits is we summarize what we're learning from all of you, and then we take that, we package it, and we send it into the world. And especially to those folks who might be able to direct new resources and new energy towards supporting our shared goals and priorities. And so that is our intention, our program's commitment, and that we value your time in helping us to do this. So as you're in your conversations, do take notes. In our case, we'll ask you to write down Post-its, but you can feel free to write down things that are on your mind that you really want to have placed, and then share those with us, because we'll use that as we try to distill what we learn in all of these locations. So thank you for tuning in. I do hope you make new friends. Don't always sit with the people you know. And please remember that we are in this together. So thank you. And bye to everybody all over the state.